Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you are practicing through the MCQs, mock test, the video. Two mock tests we have already done, more than 100 and 200 questions. So what we are going to do? Today we are going to discuss very important and scoring one also you can say literary movement and literary groups in English literature. One, two question definitely appears whether they will ask about the writer, they will ask that in which year the group or the movement started or formed, by whom, magazine. They will ask such questions related to literary movements or group. Okay, so this video is going to be extremely helpful. This topic, it connects history, society, writer and text all together. So that is why it is said that literature specifically, it is never created in isolation. But here, all the writers, by grouping together, they respond to social changes, political opinions they share, upheavals and philosophical knowledge, ideas, artistic resolutions. So this is what you will find in literary groups. Groups, that means the not only single person, single writer, but the more than one. Okay, so here, when a group of writers share common ideas, themes, or styles, it gives a rise of literary movement, that what we call and study as a literary movement or literary groups in English literature. Okay, now you understand now. So by watching this video, you will help and get familiar about all the writers specifically, the magazine if they have founded specific work by them, and for which specific group literary movement they belong. So let's start the video without any delay. Please share. Sharing is caring, and for the PDF notes you can simply join. Okay, now let's not waste the time. Let's start the class. So from the very beginning I will explain you what is a literary movement. As I told you, just literary movement, it is in literature. If you will talk about literary movement, it forms and itself, it is a broader term, long term, where you will find the intellectual mind, artistic trend. Okay, so this is the literary moment. Moment is a broader term in compare to the literary groups. Moment started, and in that moment, writers form a group. So here specifically, you must remember literary group is a smaller term and moment is a broader term. Like we have romanticism, like we have new historicism, modernism, post-colonialism. So these are the literary moments. Okay, so remember. Now, literary movement is a broad trend in literature in which many writers, often over a long period of time, share common ideas, themes, styles, or purpose. For example, just I said romantic literature or romanticism. So in romanticism, we all know all the writers majorly focuses and talked about the nature, common, or individuality, and they discarded the industrialization, right? So here romanticism, the people are sharing the common goal. They are talking about the common ideas, which is nature, individual. Okay, so you can understand with this example. So here literary movement usually develops because of historical events, social or political changes, and new philosophical or ideologies. Okay, now a literary movement is a large wave. Again I have to font. So literary movement is a large wave in literature where writers write in a similar way because they are influenced by the same time, ideas and conditions. Similarly, in Elizabethan age, we will go Jacobean age or Restoration age, you will find a lot of similar themes. So particularly the writers belong to those specific ages. They are writing about the same time, same ideas, and the same situation that is prevailing in the society or the respective era. Okay. So now you got the point what is literary movement. Here example I have taken romantic movement, just as I explained you. Writers like Wordsworth, we have Coleridge, Shelley, Keats wrote about nature, emotion, imagination, and they were all reacting against reason and industrializations. Okay, so remember, it's very easy way I just explained you. Now, what is a literary group? So, as I told you, literary group is a smaller term in compared to the literary movement. Literary movement is a broader term, and from literary movement, this literary group you can form. It derives. So, a literary group is a small organized set of writers. That means the people, the writers, group of writers. They know each other personally. And remember, in literary movement, the writers who are sharing the common theme, goal, ideas, perception, they do not know each other. That is not necessary. That is not compulsory that they must know each other. But here in literary groups, the writers who are part of the one group, they are all familiar to each other. Okay, remember. So they know each other personally, meet regularly, or work together, often write for the same magazine, journal, and institutions. So it's very easy to understand the difference between literary group and a literary moment. So here, a literary group usually exists for a shorter time and has specific members. Now, a literary group is a close circle of writers who work together and influence each other directly. They share their opinion, they talk about the common goals, the ideas. Okay, so that's what it means. Example you can take here Bloomsbury Group. Virginia Woolf, we have E.M. Forster, Lytton Strachey. They met regularly and shared ideas about art, literature, and society. Okay. So I hope the difference between literary movement and literary groups is clear to everybody. The difference is mentioned here also. You can simply understand that literary movement is a large and broader term in compared to the literary group, and literary group is a small and specific term. It is for the long time period and it is a shorter time period. Here you will you can say that writers may not meet or they do not know each other. Still, they are sharing the common goals. Why? Because they are specifically related to the one literary movement. Okay. And in literary groups, writers know each other. They meet, they share, they talk. Here, in literary movement, you will influenced by history, and here in literary group, they influenced by personal interactions. Example here, literary movement, romanticism, and here, Bloomsbury Group. The one who will get the PDF, it's very easy to understand. Okay. Now, in literary groups, let's start. We have medieval before 1500, like the age of Chaucer, Anglo-Saxon, and Old English Norman conquest. So in Old English, we can say all these moments, Anglo-Saxon poets, they came, they started writing, and then how they have been defeated by the Anglo Norman conquest. Sorry, the time period was 450 to 1066 AD. Anonymously, the right work we have very popular Beowulf. Then we have Cadman, Sir Gawain, Pearl poet. Remember, it's very important. I have discussed this in a poetry class in a very much detail. You can watch. Late 14th century, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, anonymous writer. Then we came into the age of Chaucerian. That is the Middle English age, when we find where we found a lot of innovations by Geoffrey Chaucer. He, like you can say, shaped the English literature. That is why he is known as the father of English literature and a poet. Okay, so Middle English School, 14th to 15th century. Here you will find Geoffrey Chaucer, John Gower, William Langley, John Lydgate, and Thomas Occleve. Then Scottish Chaucerians, the Muckers, who are Robert Henryson, William Dunbar, King James I of Scotland. So these are the medieval age writers. This is going to be the one short revision for all the literary moments. Now, after that, we are going to enter the Renaissance, which is Elizabethan, Shakespeare age, and early Stuart age also. Okay, so here you will find the university wits, which is we have time period 1580 to 90s, where you will find Christopher Marlowe, Green, Thomas Nash, Lily, Riley. Then we have Lodge. Here you will find the sonneteers, Sir Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, Samuel Daniel, and Michael Drayton. Spenserian stanza, we all know poets influenced by Edmund Spenser, and William Blake called him poet's poet. Here, Edmund Spenser later followers it became. Metaphysical poets in Renaissance age we found by John Donne, who was a key figure of metaphysical poetry, George Herbert, Henry Vaughan, Richard Crashaw, Andrew Marvell, okay, who are the bridge figures. In Cavalier poets, the same we will find in the Renaissance age, but there is a huge difference between metaphysical poets and Cavalier poets. So, Cavalier poets, remember the name Robert Herrick, Richard Lovelace, Sir John Suckling, and Thomas Grieve. So, what NTA actually asked that in Renaissance age, which age falls or which writer falls in the metaphysical poet? Who is the key figure? They will ask you the name. Then they will ask you the timeline or time period, or they will ask you that what contribution they have given by being the part of one literary group or a moment. Okay, so this is how you must remember. In Restoration age, you will find Restoration dramatists. We found the Comedy of Manners invention 1660s to 70s. William Y. Shirley, William Congreve, and George Etheridge. There in Restoration age, you can find Scribblers Club, where Alexander Pope, Jonathan Swift, John Gay, Dr. John Arbuthnot, Augustine, and Neoclassicist movement. Pope, Joseph Addison, Richard Steele, Samuel Johnson, who are the critical figures. Critical figures, okay. Then graveyard poets in the same Restoration age, pre-romantic sensibility, which is also known. Writers we have Thomas Gray, Edward Young, and Thomas Percy. Blue stockings, who are the blue stockings? So blue stockings were majorly focusing on the, or you can say the group of women's intellectual circle. Okay, here you will find the key founder Elizabeth Montague, Elizabeth Carter, Hannah. Okay, and other women writers and critics. So this is what the literary movement here you will find in the Restoration age. Then in Romantic age, the Romantic age writers were divided into first and second generation. So in first generation Romantic, we will find William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Second generation we have Lord Byron, P.B. Shelley, John, etc. Then Lake poets and Cockney school. Always NTA ask a question from this two group, which is Lake poet and Cockney school. So must not forget. Later on, we will discuss the literary group in very much detail, all the works and the writers that belong. So all the writers must not forget about the group, okay? Then we in Victorian age, Victorian moment, Victorian novelist, social realist, they talk about the writers like Charles Dickens, George Eliot, Thomas Hardy, and Victorian poets we have Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning, and Matthew Arnold. Here you will find the group Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, founded in 1848, and the writers Dante Gabriel Rossetti, William Holman Hunt, and John Everett Millais. Aesthetic movement is also part of the Victorian movement. So here you will find Walter Pater, Oscar Wilde, and their contributions. Okay. Then in early 20th century and modernism 1900 to 1945, Georgian poets, very important. Georgian poets, which is pre-World War First, World War First, you can lyrical poets. We have Lady Rupert Brooke, which is also, this question is appeared in June 2025 itself. They asked one of the name of the Georgian poet or Georgian writers. Walter de la Mare, Lascelles Abercrombie. Imagist, you can remember Ezra Pound related to H.D. Hilda Doolittle and Emmy Lowell. War poets Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, Rupert Brooke. So why they these writers known as war poets. You can figure out later. Bloomsbury Group, here you will find Virginia Woolf, E.M. Foster, Ted Strachey, John Maynard Keynes, who are also a circle of modernist intellectuals. Lost generation. This early 20th century and modernism, very important. Georgian poets, imagists, war poets, Bloomsbury Group, lost generation, all these movements and groups you will find in early 20th century modernism part. Okay. Then mid late 20th century you have, so here you will find the moment. So in mid late 20th century postmodern and related moments you will find here 1945 till present time. The moment 1950s around the time period was, here you will find the British poets like Philip Larkin, Kingsley Amis, Donald Davy, who were also Tom Forestian post-war poets. These writers. Angry Young Men, very important. John Osborne, Kingsley Amis, Alan Silito, confessional poets, Beat Generation, Black Mountain poets, postmodern novelists. So this era is also, this literary movement is also very important. Okay, the writers must not forget. Then African American and Black arts. That is what Harlem Renaissance we all know. So Harlem Renaissance we have and Black Arts Movement writers Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and Claude McKay. And in Black Arts Movement, Amiri Braka, very important name, and Sonia Shanz. In post-colonial Commonwealth and world literature, mid-20th century onwards, here you will find the African and Anglophone African writers, including Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, etc. In Caribbean and Commonwealth writers, Derek Walcott, V.S. Naipaul, Jean Rice. Negritude term is also very important. You will find in post-colonial lit moment, Amy Caesar, Leopard Cedar Sanger movement, they started from French language, Indian English and diaspora writers, which is also very important now these days. Nizim Ezekiel, Kamla Das, A.K. Ramanujan, Salman Rushdie, Arundhati Roy, these are the writers of Indian English diaspora. Now, let's see what are the major literary groups and who are the writers that are the part of those groups. Okay, so let's start. First, we will discuss about the university bits, which is very, very important to everybody. As we all know that one such questions every time LTA ask about whether they will ask you the writer, the group, from which age they belong to, and what are the significance or highlights related to the writers or the groups. Okay, so here the university bits. The term university bits was coined by George Sainsbury. Remember, in 19th century, who was a literary historian. And why did he coin the term? To refer the cluster of educated playwrights. That means all the members who are part of the university wits, they have been educated, whether it's from the Oxford University or the Cambridge. That means they have some sort of formal university education. So to name them, he coined this university wit term. Okay, remember. So the university wits is basically a phrase used to name a group of late 16th century English playwrights and pamphleteers who were educated at the university, some sort like you can say Oxford or Cambridge, and who became popular secular writers. Okay, so they have contribution and they majorly belong to the Elizabethan era. So time period you must remember university wit, Elizabethan era 1580s to 1590s. And what were the purpose of all these members of the university wits? To elevate English drama, bringing classical influence and blank verse to the popular stage. Okay, so whatever they were writing, they wanted to reach. So this was their aim. They were pioneers in transitioning English plays from morality, religious plays to more complex and secular drama. We all know that Elizabethan is one of the most important age in English literature, whether it's terms of the writers or the work or any other, like we have a Spenserian stanza, like we have a Shakespearean stanza, like we have a blank verse. So each, by watching all this, by observing all this, we can remember similarly. Now, who are the notable members? The notable members we have Christopher Marlowe, who were, they also ask that from which university these writers, these members have been educated. So Christopher Marlowe, remember Cambridge, Robert Greene from Cambridge, Thomas Dash from Cambridge, Thomas Lodge from Oxford, George Peele, Oxford, John Lyly, Oxford. So here Thomas Kidd is also sometime included here. Why? Because though he was not from either Oxford or Cambridge, but sometimes we include them. Remember all these the important papers, okay? They also ask you to exclude the writers who are not part of the group. So remember all the members' names, easily you can exclude. Now, Christopher Marlowe, we all know that what and how important he was in this Elizabethan age. 1564 and 1564, similar age, similar year, Shakespeare was born to. 1593 from Cambridge, he introduced mighty blank verse and also he paved a way for Shakespearean tragedy. Okay, major works by Christopher Marlowe you can remember: Tamburlaine the Great, Part 1 1587 and Part 2 1588. I'm extremely sorry if I will speak any word not appropriately. I'm still, my nose is totally blocked. I'm not helping out. So there is a problem speaking. Dr. Foster's 1592, publication 1604, The Jew of Malta, remember Edward II and the poem he wrote, Hero and Leander, which was posthumously, the work was, we all know, okay? So remember all the. Now Robert Greene was from Cambridge too. He was introduced the prose romance, first to attack Shakespeare as an upstart crow. Robert Greene, very important, upstart crow. It is said by Robert Greene addressing Shakespeare. Major works you can remember: Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, 1589, and dosto, 1588. It is a source of Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale. If we will say that Shakespeare's work was not copied, not imitated, or not taken, you can simply remember that Shakespeare was the one playwright who has taken reference from many writers' work. So that is why the Shakespeare's Winter's Tales work, you can simply remember it is the source of from the work Pandosto, which is by Robert Greene. Not like this, there are so many. Groat's worth of wit, 1592, James IV, 1590. Okay. Similarly, we have Thomas Nash, master of satire and pamphlet writing, similarly from the Cambridge University too. Major works, The Unfortunate Travel. This work is very important by Thomas Nash. Piers Penniless, his supplication to the devil, 1592. Summer's last will and testament, 1592. These tears over Jerusalem, 1593. Okay. Another one we have Thomas Lodge. Thomas Lodge from the Oxford University. He was started prose romance and a drama. That means majorly in his work you will find prose romance and a dramatic scene. Major works Rosalind, important this work is 1590. It is also a source of Shakespeare's as you like it. Sometimes this is also became the question by NTA, and that this work is by Shakespeare, from which work of the particular writer he has taken reference. The Woods of the Civil War, 1588, a Margaret of America, 1596. Okay. George Peele we have, who is known for lyrical drama and mythological subjects from Oxford University too. Sorry. Major works, The Arraignment of Paris, very important. This work is The Old Wives' Tale, Edward First, and The Battle of Alcazar. Remember all the work, okay? John Lilly, we have the founder of Euphemism and ornate prose style from Oxford University too. John Lilly, founder of Euphemism. Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit, 1578. Euphues and his England, 1580. Endymion, 1588. Compass Pay, 1584, and Sappho and Fowl, 1584. Okay. Thomas Kidd, who was not associated. Why? Because he was not attended any university or formal university education, but he was the pioneer of revenge tragedy. The Spanish tragedy is very important by him. Cornelia is also, and Solimon and Persida. Okay. Why are all these members famous? The university wits. They are famous because they developed the early modern English drama. We all know how Elizabethan drama are popular, specifically Marlowe's drama and Shakespeare. They introduced blank verse as a powerful dramatic medium. They elevated English theatre to a professional artistic form. They laid the foundation for Shakespeare's greatness. I mean, these were the writers who are not aware that they are going to make a way for the upcoming greatest playwright, which is going to be the Shakespeare. So that is why they laid the foundation for Shakespeare's greatness. Their work Shakespeare took reference and wrote all his great plays. They brought classical learning plus Renaissance humanism into English, and they also gave drama structure, characterization, rhetoric, emotional intention. Okay. Here you can simply remember about university wits. Marlowe Mighty Blank was known as Liney euphemism, kid revenge tragedy, grief and lodge source for Shakespeare and Nash satirical prose. So that is why if any of you have studied properly, you must know that why Shakespeare is said to be that he has copied a lot of the previous writer's work. Actually, you can say he has not copied. Many of the people say that he has copied, but many of the people say that he took reference. Now, one of the important literary groups we have metaphysical poets. Metaphysical poets was coined by the English critic and poet Samuel Johnson, Dr. Samuel Johnson. Okay, he used this term to describe a group of 17th century British lyric poets whose work was characterized by complex intellectual and emotional concerns. Many of the questions only you are going to get from this literary group. Witty comparisons and a unique style. So metaphysical poets and metaphysical term coined by Samuel Johnson. Okay, remember the to refer the 17th century British lyric poets. Why they are known as metaphysical poets? They fuse emotion and intellect in poetry using complex metaphors. They also explore themes of religion, love, and existence using intellect, wit, and paradox. They also reacted against the smooth elegance of earlier Elizabethan poetry, favoring a more argumentative and philosophical style. Also, they sought to unify thought and emotion through poetic metaphors known as conceits, which is very important term and one of the most repeated questions in NTA by NTA. Sorry. Notable members we have John Donne, who is also a founding figure of metaphysical poets. George, leading figure, you can say. George Herbert, Andrew Marvell, Henry Vaughan, and Richard Cranshaw. Okay, these are the important members. Please let me know if I have missed any of the writers. I took so much time to prepare such PDF, and the people are still not like, what should I say? John Donne. So John Donne, who was also known as the father and the leader of metaphysical poetry, a priest, preacher, poet, known for complex conceits. So conceit is basically related with John Donne. Okay, metaphysical conceits, John Donne's work. He is also famous for dramatic argumentation and spiritual and erotic intensity. The major works by him you must remember: Songs and Sonnets, written 1590s to 1610 and published 1633 posthumously. The Flea, important work. The Good Morrow, these works which will I highlight here. You must remember that they appear in the math chronology questions or magic questions. Okay. The canonization, very important. Valedication, very important. So metaphysical conceits used in this work, the valedication, forbidding mourning, the conceit word you will find here. Okay, remember. Holy Sonnets, Divine Meditations, written 1609 to 17 and published 1633. Hymn to God, my God, in sickness, devotions upon emergent occasions includes No Man is an Island, meditation, and sermons, that is, you can remember. Okay. Another one we have George Herbert. George Herbert is basically a devotional poet Anglican priest known for shaped poems, spiritual clarity, simplicity, and religious symbolism. Major work, the temple is which is very important. 1633. The altar shaped poem, Easter wings is also important. Okay, remember the temple and Easter wings. Love, love. 3. The caller and a praise to the temple, 1652, which is a prose. Okay, then another writer we have Henry Vaughan. Sorry. Welsh mystical poet influenced by George Herbert, nature mystic religious verse. Basically, he is associated with Silex Saint-Helen's Part 1 1650 and Part 2 1655. Remember Olor Icarus 1651, famous poems The Retreat and the World. Okay. Andrew Marvell, we all know Andrew Marvell is one of the important to his coy mistress. Very important. He was the bridge between Cavalier and metaphysical styles. So after metaphysical, there is also important literary groups we are going to learn about here. Poets, he was a poet, satirist, politician. He blend metaphysical wit with political themes and nature imagery. In a very short way, I have tried to clear each point to you. Major works by Andrew Marvell, do not forget, To His Coy Mistress, written during 1650s and published 1681. Okay, important work. One second. The Garden, 1650s, published 1681. And Horatian Ode upon Cromwell's return from Ireland, very important. This one, upon Appleton House, 1651. Miscellaneous Poems, 1681, which was published posthumously. Okay. Richard Crashaw, about Richard Crashaw, must remember this thing that is important, so I added. So he was an English metaphysical poet known for his intense spiritual devotion and Baroque extravagance. So, which writer who is associated with the Baroque text, which is Richard Crashaw, and ecstatic mystical imagery. Unlike Dunn or Herbert, Crashaw is distinguished for his Catholic orientation, shaped after his conversion to Catholicism. So, which one of the members from the metaphysical poet has been converted to Catholicism? So that is Richard Crashaw, and he is associated with Baroque extravagance. Baroque word, remember, and exile during the English Civil War. He blends metaphysical with sensuous Catholic imagery and European Baroque devotional style. Okay. He is majorly known for the most Catholic of the metaphysical poets and a bridge between English metaphysical poetry and European Baroque mysticism. He was the author of devotional poems that use extreme sensory imagery. Okay, these were the extra information about him, and also he was an example of metaphysical poetry beyond the intellectual, leading into the emotional, spiritual ecstasy. The work Epigrammatum Sacrorum Liber 1634, I added later. Steps to the Temple, Sacred Poems, his first major English collection, includes Steps to the Temple, Sacred Poems inspired by George Herbert. The Delights of the Muse, it is also secular poems added to balance sacred intensity, and Carmen Dio Nostro 1652, which is published posthumously. Okay, so I will have to shift this to Richard Crashaw. Okay, and the famous poem he has, The Flaming Heart, a hymn to Saint Teresa and the Weeper. Okay, now another metaphysical writer we have Thomas Trent, who was a mystical Christian poet. Manuscripts discovered in 1890s. Manuscripts, he was Innocence, Joy, and Spirituality. Major works, Centuries of Meditations, written 1670 and published in 1908. Poems of Felicity, that was written 1670s and published 1910. So Thomas Reid, who is also a member of, or you can say, belong to the metaphysical poetry. Abraham Cowley, who was a transitional figure, metaphysical tendencies, and Pindaric odes. Okay, remember the work Poetical Blossom 1633, The Mistress 1647. Please cross check the year. Pindaric Ode 1656, and verses written on several occasions 1663. Okay, so I hope everything is clear about the university myths and metaphysical poets. Now, Cavalier poets, which is also important. From all these literary groups, you must remember the members' name, okay, who has coined the specific group name, if any of we have, and the ages. So the term Cavalier poets wasn't coined by a single individual, but rather it was evolved over time. So initially, you can say that it was referred to the poets who supported King Charles I. So the Cavalier poets were supposed to be the closest to the King Charles I and supported word you can remember during the English Civil War. Okay. But the term here, Cavalier, became more descriptive of their political affiliations and aristocratic backgrounds. So why? Because they were loyal to the king. All the Cavalier members or the Cavalier poets, writers, loyal to the king. So that is why the name Cavaliers came from being their loyalty with the kings. Majorly wrote about love, beauty, and loyalty in a graceful lyrical style. Okay. So loyal to the king, that means Cavalier. They were majorly popular, and the purpose of Cavalier writers was that they were supporter of the King Charles I. Remember, they write lyrical poetry about loyalty, love, and pleasure. They supported King Charles I and royalist ideals during the English Civil War. Their poetry celebrated courtly love, loyalty, and pleasure, and also they intended as a counterbalance to the more serious religious Puritan poets of the time. Okay, now remember the Cavalier poets. So here it is why what is the Cavalier poetry movement? So it is the group of English poets who are associated with the royally supported of Charles I. Okay, English Civil War 1642 1650 war. The key themes of the Cavalier poetry is important for the exam. So carpe diem, that means the seize the day philosophy. This thing I have discussed in the poetry class. Love and loyalty. If you will watch the poetry class playlist, you will have a great revision. Honor and the chivalry, that is traditional values of knighthood, wit and urbanity, beauty of life and nature. The poetic styles of Cavalier writers, they were short lyrical poems. They were writing, they used rhymed couplets, iambic tetrameter and pentameter. They emphasize on clarity, elegance and graceful diction. They also often contrasted with the metaphysical poets like Donne, who were more introspective and philosophical than Cavalier poets. Okay, so Cavalier poets and metaphysical poets writers sometimes they have been differentiated with each other. Notable members we have Richard Lovelace, Robert Herrick, Thomas Carroll, Sir John Suckling, and Edmund Weller. Remember the name of the Cavalier poets: Richard Lovelace, Robert Herrick, Thomas Carroll, Sir John Suckling, and Edmund Weller. Let's see some of the works by these writers. So, Thomas Carroll, 1595 to 1640, who was a court poet known for polished love lyrics, smoothness, and sensuous imagery. The box you can remember, sorry, a rapture. Poem 1640 includes a rapture, true section, or to his mistress going to bed. Okay, this was in answer to one of the Dunn's work. Famous poem, you remember a rapture to my mistress, and a song, ask me no more where Joe bestows. Robert Herrick, we have most important Cavalier poet is Robert Herrick, who was lyrical, elegant, sensuous, and celebrates rural life, love, and beauty. The work by him is very important, and that is Hesperides 1648, which includes to the virgins to make much of time, delight in disorder, Coriolanus going a baying, Noble number 1648, which is a religious poems. Okay. Now, Sir John Suckling, we have John Suckling, who is aristocratic wit, known for light, graceful songs in bed of modern playing cards, and also known for satirical tone, courtly wit, and romantic irony. The major works by him you can simply remember Sir John Suckling is Fragmenta Ora 1646, which is a collection of poems, plays, and letters together. Famous poem Why So Pale and Worn, Fond Lover from Aglora, Ballad Upon a Wedding, Sir John Suckling. Richard Lovelace, who was an ideal cavalier gentleman poet, defender of monarchy, graceful and noble tone. Lucasta is the major work by him 1649, which includes the two Aldi from prison to Lucasta going to the wars, and a posthumously poem which I could not love thee dear so much, loved I not honor more 1659. Then we have Edmund Weller. Edmund Weller, we have defined stylist, early practitioner of smooth heroic couplets, major poems on a girdle 1645, Go Lovely Rose 1645, and Divine Poem 1685. So these are the Cavalier poets. They are always get compared with metaphysical poets. Why? Let me tell you. So Cavalier versus metaphysical poets. Metaphysical poets 1590 to 1650, the era late Elizabethan, early Stuart and Civil War. So they challenged classical poetic style. Metaphysical poets were philosophical, intellectual, and argumentative in their work. Metaphysical conceit, which is very important, strained, extended, shocking comparison they used, and specifically this will we are going to find in John Donne's work. By face example, you can here understand. Okay. Now, so what are the major difference between the Cavalier and metaphysical poets? Here, view of love. So Cavalier were physical, writing in physical beauty, celebration, and present pleasure, while metaphysical, they were writing related to soulful union, intellectual reasoning, and spiritual dimension. Imagery in the sense Cavalier used to write like mentioning roses, spring, wine, and songs, while metaphysical poets uses compass, like Donne has used angel wings and scientific instruments. So these were the difference. In the philosophical way, Cavalier used hedonistic earthly joy, and metaphysical writers used mystical, moral, and religious. In the language form, the Cavalier uses a smooth and musical language, while metaphysical writers uses jagged, argumentative, and compressed language in the work. Okay, so these are the difference. About the Cavalier poets, here is the quick recall you can simply remember. Next literary group we have. Here is the difference I have added in this PDF. Tone, in terms of tone, themes, philosophical depth, the style, poetic device, vocabulary, form, approach to love, political learning, leading, meaning, essence. These are the difference between the metaphysical and the Cavalier poets. Okay, everything is mentioned here. So this is the difference. Okay, I hope the point is clear. Now let's move on. All these literary groups and movements, at least you must remember that these groups fall in which ages, the notable members, and majorly what type of theme they explore in their work, and if there is any rulers that they belong or they supported, and who has got this specific group name. So this is what NTA asks. Okay. So here is the Scribblers Club, which is very, very, very important. Scribblers Club was an informal group of satirical writers in early 18th century London. Okay, they were active from 1740 to 1745, and here Jonathan Swift, the Pope, were the most influential. Together, they created the fictional Martinus Scribblers. Remember, to express their satire, though much of their work remained unpublished until the 1740s. So, notable, and you can see the most important here we have Swift and Pope. Okay, so Scribblers Club, they were active from the time period 1714 to 1745. Okay, how the Scribblers name originated. So it was named after the imaginary padlet Martinus Scribblers. First, they appeared in collaborative plans, which was never fully completed, you will find, and the club dissolved around 1726. So remember the year, in which year the club was dissolved, or the Scribner's Club dissolved, so they can ask anything. Literary age, they belong to Augustan age, okay? Their purpose was to satirize bad literature, pedantry, and politics. They formed to satirize the misuse of learning and the corruption of literary standards. Alexander Pope in poetry's class, I have told you that how much he was not liking the other writers' work. Why? Because they were copying, they were imitating, they were not putting their own efforts, and he thought that they should bring more creativity. So they have been doing all this, and you can simply here get the reason. They targeted pedantry, politics, and false taste through humorous and intellectual satire. And also, they wanted to uphold classical literary values in a changing cultural landscape. So, this was their aim. Notable members we have Jonathan Swift, Alexander Pope, John Arbuthnot, Thomas Parnell, Henry St. John, Robert Harley, and John Gay. These are the members: Swift, Pope, Knott, Nell, John, Lay, Gay. You can remember this. Swift, Pope, Knott, Nell, John, Lay, Gay. Now let's see some of the work. I have added these works and little bit highlight about the writers to make you recall or for the revision purpose, because this thing I have already discussed in the poetry class about it very much detail. So Alexander Pope was a leading poet of Augustan age and also master of heroic couplet. He was a sharp satirist of intellectual corruption. Major works, the essay on criticism, very important work by him. The Rape of the Law, very important. All the characters, even the name of the dog, I have mentioned. Revised version 1714 and 1712. Translation to the of the Iliad 1750 to 20. The Dunciad revised 1743 and 28. Essay on man, moral essays. Okay, remember. Scriblerian significance. Why? What is that? See, Scriblerian, that means what are the significance highlights of all these members? They used Scriblerian satire to attack hack writers and false scholars. And the Dunciad is the best Scriblerian satire by Alexander Pope, in which he has, how much he has satirizes all the writers. Another one we have Jonathan Swift, who was the greatest prose satirist in English literature. Nature, a moral and political critic. Major works A Tale of a Term, 1704, The Battle of the Books, Gulliver's Travels, and A Modest Proposal, which is very important. Okay, remember. Gulliver's Travel, they will ask you the name, location, remote island that Gulliver visit. Here, they were central intellectual force of the club, and they mocked pseudo-learning, pride, and scientific arrogance by the writers. John Gay we have, who was a poet and dramatist, satirical observer of social hypocrisy, 1685 to 1732. Major works by John Gay: The Shepherd's Week, 1714, Trivia, 1716, The Beggar's Opera, 1728, and Fable, 1727 to 1738. Okay, he satirized pastoral conventions and urban life in his work. Now, John Arbuthnot we have, who was a physician, mathematician, satirist, intellectual backbone of the club. Major works: The History of John Bull, 1712, Law is a Bottomless Pit, 1712, Martin Scribblers, written 1730 to 14, published 1741. Okay. He was the creator, John Arbuthnot, creator of the Martinus Scribblers, and he was also a primary architect to Scriblerian satire. Thomas Parnell we have, who was an Irish poet, transitional figure between Restoration and Augustan poetry. The works you can remember: poems, and on several occasions, 1721, posthumously published. The Hermit, published 1721. Okay. He contributed to satirical and moral verse, and also he was closely associated to Pope and Jonathan Swift. Okay. Now, what are the key scriblarian facts that you must remember? So it is the memoirs of Martinus Scribner's written in 13 through 1714, published in 1741. Authors you have Arbuthnot, Pope, Swift, Gay, and Parnell. Remember the writer. The nature of this text is to mock biography of a pedantic scholar. Okay, that means they were targeting the false learning, absurd scholarship, and intellectual vanity. So I hope the point about Scribner's Club clear to you. Here you can remember the Dunkard and Gulliver's Travels emerged from Scriblerian ideology, the both the work. Sometimes they ask such questions also. Nobody knows what they can do. Another important one, we have the blue stockings, which is emerged in 18th century, mid 18th century. So the blue stocking is majorly related with the women intellectuals of the 18th century. That is also known as the age of sensibility. Okay. The students are actually, I want to share, they are joining the channel, and after getting the PDF, they are like you can understand what I'm trying to say. So don't you think that's wrong? Anyways, so the Blue Stockings was an 18th century literary and intellectual circle of educated women in England. So Blue Stockings, remember, they were active mainly during the age of sensibility, and all the women of the Blue Stockings were aimed to promote female education. Remember, rational conversation, literature, arts, and morality. These were the aims of Blue Stockings member. They opposed gossip-based salons, encouraged intellectual discourse. Okay, this Blue Stocking group formed by Elizabeth Mortig and Elizabeth Vesey. Around 1750s, this group was formed, and magazine you can remember they were gatherings and salons, not there any particular name of the magazines. So the place they were gathering to the salons. Origin of the term blue stocks. So this comes from the Benjamin Stillfleet, who wore blue worsted stockings instead of formal black silk stockings at a gathering. So that is why the name here kept as blue stocking. The term was later applied to intellectual women, okay, and the purpose to promote intellectual conversation among women and men, specifically literature and moral philosophy. So, writer you must remember Elizabeth Carter, Hannah More, Hester Chapman, and Samuel Johnson, who was a supporter, not a key member. You can understand, but that is why here it is mentioned as a supporter. Elizabeth Montague, who is the founder and leader and patron of the Blue Stocking Circle, and critic and literary hostess. The major work by Elizabeth Montague, you can remember, an essay on the writings and a genius of Shakespeare, 1769. Letters, which was published posthumously in 1809 to 13. Okay. She defended Shakespeare against French critics, who it is Elizabeth Montague, who was also center organizer of Blue Stocks meeting. Okay, the PDF is very easy to understand, everybody. That's why it took so much time. Still, if I lack anywhere and I have missed any point, you can please notify me. I will add. Elizabeth Carter, 1770 to 1806, who was a classical scholar, translator, poet, and symbol of female intellectual excellence. Remember the work Poems on Several Occasions, 1762, translation of Epictetus, 1758, essays and letters posthumously. The work is here is not mentioned here. Hannah More, 45 to 1833, was a moralist, playwright, religious reformer, and later evangelical writer. Hannah More from the Blue Stockings. Remember the year? Percy 1777, which is a tragedy. Thoughts on the importance of the manners of the great 1788. Strictures on the modern system of female education 1799. And a cheap repository tract 1795 to 1798. Okay. Here you can remember Frances Burney, Madame d'Armilly, known 1750 to 1850, also novelist and diarist, major female novelist of the 18th century, who Elizabeth Hannah More, okay, not Elizabeth Carter, but Hannah More. Hester Chapman we have, who was an essayist and moral writer focused on women's education. Major works Letters on the Improvement of the Mind 1773, Miscellaneous in Prose and Verses 1775, okay. Sarah Fielding we have, the one who are not key members but associated with somehow. So you can at least remember. Sarah Fielding, 1710 to 1768, novelist and critic, sister of Henry Fielding, early feminist voice. Major works we have The Adventure of David Simple, 1744, familiar letters between the principal characters in David Simple and the governess, 1749. Okay. Now the last one we have Ada Letita Barbol, who was a poet, essayist, children's writer, and the bridge between sensibility and romanticism. Remember the major works poem 1773. Remember the important work Hymns in Prose for Children 1781. Evenings at Home 1792 to 96, 1811, 1812. Okay. Now let's quickly recall some. Let's see some associated male figures to the blue stockings. Samuel Johnson was admirer. You can get to the question, okay? Edmund Burke associated and Joshua Reynolds was a friend, okay? Here is a quick recall about the blue stockings, okay? So it was a first organized women-led intellectual movement in England. It promoted female literacy and authorship, and the Blue Stockings greatly influenced one of the most important writers, Jane Austen, and later women writers. Okay, this group challenged gender stereotypes of the 18th century. Okay, remember, Blue Stockings were active mainly 1750 to 85. Leader was Elizabeth Bronte, and the term derived from the Benjamins still fits Blue Stockings, who was wearing. Okay, and it is associated with the age of a sensibility. I hope the point is clear. Another important writer group we have graveyard poets. Okay, remember. So now the graveyard poets were a group of 18th century poets known for their meditative and often melancholy verse. Graveyard poets. So here you have to remember the work and the specific writers and who, what are the works that is actually has been categorized in graveyard school. Okay. So frequently set in or evoking the imagery of graveyards. The term graveyard poets was coined by the literary critic William McNeill Dixon in 1898. 1898 by William McNeill Dixon. So here the term graveyard school refers to the four poems, and what are those? Remember Thomas Gray's elegy written in a country churchyard, Thomas Parnell's Night Piece on Death, Robert Blair's The Grave, and Edward Young's Night Thoughts. Okay, so these are the four poems respectively known as graveyard school. This graveyard poets or is considered a precursor of romanticism due to the emotional depth, melancholy, and individual reflection. Romanticism was also kind of serious in tone, celebrating nature, emotion, and individuality. Okay, why the name graveyard? So it is a frequent imagery of churchyards, tombs, skulls, night, and solitude. That means all the work that is written specific by these graveyard writers were majorly used the type of words or the type of things in their work. So that is what they refer as graveyard. Poems often set in graveyards or nighttime meditations. Okay. So the graveyard poets reflect on death and spirituality, leading into romanticism. They expressed melancholy and meditated on death, the afterlife, and the human morality. They served as bridge between neoclassicism and romanticism. Remember, their reflective tone and emphasis on emotion inspired future romantic poets. Okay, now let's take notable members of Graveyard School. We have Thomas Gray, Edward Young, Robert Blair, and William Cooper. Okay, remember. So, Edward Young was a central figure of the Graveyard School, moralist and philosopher poet, and the important work Night Thoughts 1740 to 45, 9 part, the poem, The Last Day 1713, and The Complaint or Night Thoughts on Life, Death, and Immorality, that is the full title, which was in 1742. He was the foundation text. The work was graveyard poetry, and he also meditates on death, immorality, and God. Another one we have Thomas Gray. Thomas Gray was a transitional poet between neoclassicism and romanticism, refined melancholy, melancholic lyricist. Major works by him, remember Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard 1751, The Progress of Poesy 1757, The Bard 1757. He was the most famous graveyard poem in English literature, and that is Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard. Okay. Another writer we have, he also combines simplicity with universal meditation on death. Another important writer we have Robert Blair. Robert Blair was a Scottish poet and clergyman, early voice of graveyard meditation. Major works The Grave Remembered 1743, one of the earliest poems of the graveyard tradition. That means the literary group. Thomas Parnell, poet and clergyman, bridge between Augustan poetry and pre-romanticism. So Thomas Parnell you will find in the previous group also. Major works A Night Piece on Death 1721, Poems on Several Occasions 1721. He introduced nocturnal meditation into English poetry. Okay, remember. William Collins, we have another lyric poet of sensibility, emotional, and introspective tone, and the work you can remember Odes on a Several Descriptive and Allegoric Subjects 1746, Ode to Evening 1746. He is important for his melancholic imagination, links him to graveyard school. Okay, his imagination, melancholic imagination. Now, important associate figure to graveyard school, we have James Harvey, 1740 to 58, who was a religious writer and prose stylist, influenced graveyard sensibility. And the works of James Harvey, you can remember, Meditations Among the Tombs 1746, Reflections on a Flower Garden 1739. So the writers who are associated, the writers who are linked or they have been influenced or they are just the admirer. For which specific literary group and what are the members of those literary groups? So this is how you can memorize them. Why grave poets are important? Because they bridge between neoclassicism and romanticism. They introduced emotion and subjectivity into English poetry. They influenced Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Romantic elegy, and also they made death a philosophical and emotional theme. So, Graveyard School flourished 1740 to 65. Remember, central poem Night Thoughts by Edward Young, most famous poem Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard by Thomas Gray, and this is considered pre-romantic poets, all the members. Okay, now let's see the another important groups, and that is lake poets. Lake poets is also very important, everybody. All the important literary group writers you will find here in this single PDF. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. Watch till end. Share also. It's your duty and responsibility. So, lake poets are first generation romantic poets. The term lake poets was initially coined by, we all have studied, so it is a revision, short revision, coined by literary critic Francis Jaffrey in the early 19th century, specifically in the Edinburgh Review in 1817. This is the P by Q, in which so that Edinburgh Review by Francis Jaffrey, who coined the lake poet term. So it is Francis Jaffrey in 19th century. Okay, he used it to describe William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Robert Southey, who were all associated with Lake District in England, that is northwest. So all these specific writers were used to live around the Lake District in England. That is why these writers named as a lake poets. Okay, their house was situated around the lake. So the lake poets celebrated nature, introspection, and emotion. They advocated for the beauty of nature, individual emotion, and the spiritual aspects of life. They also reacted against industrialization and the Enlightenment's overemphasis on reason, and also they helped to initiate the Romantic movement in England. Okay, and one of the biggest name we have Wordsworth. Okay, remember. Notable members you can remember William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, and Robert Southey. These are the members related to Lake Poets. So, William Wordsworth, we all know, leader of the Lake Poets, founder of English Romantic poetry, and poet laureate, 1843. Major works by William Wordsworth, we have a lyrical ballad, which is a you can say declaration of romantic age 1798 with Coleridge. Here you have to remember that how many works combinedly by Wordsworth and Coleridge published in 1798 lyrical ballad, and how many works by both the writers, and which is the first and the last work. Okay, okay, so here you can simply remember William Wordsworth work you will find here 19, and Coleridge 4 work. Okay, so total 23 works were published in this collection. Okay, and the first work remembered by S.T. Coleridge, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and the last work was Tintern Abbey by William Wordsworth. Okay, the first one start with The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is by S.T. Coleridge, and the last work you must remember, The Tintern Abbey, okay, by William Wordsworth. Tinton Abbey 1798, The Prelude written 1790, which is and also an biography of William Wordsworth. The Excursions 1814, Ode, Intimations of Immorality, Michael 1800, and The Solitary Reaper are the specific works. Okay. S.T. Coleridge we have, who was a philosopher, poet, critic, theorist of imagination, who was also a co-founder of Romantic movement. Fancy imaginations are the term related with Biographia Literaria related with S.T. Coleridge. So, Lyrical Ballad 1798 with Wordsworth, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner 1798, which is the first work by him, Kubla Khan written 1797 and published 1816, Christabel important 1800 and published 1816, Biographia Literaria 1817, and Aids to Reflection 1825. Okay. Robert Southey we have, who was a poet, historian, and poet laureate 1813 and a prolific writer. Remember here 1774 to 1843. The work Joan of Arc 1796, Thalaba the Destroyer 1801, Madoc 1804, 5, sorry, The Curse of Kahama 1810, and Roderick the Last of the Goths 1814. Okay. Associate marginal figure of lake poets we have Dorothy Wordsworth. Diaries influenced romantic nature writing, sister of William Wordsworth, Dorothy Wordsworth. Major works by Dorothy Wordsworth, remember Grasmere Journal, written 1798 to 1803 and published 1897. Alpha, Alfoxden Journal 1798. Okay, Dorothy Wordsworth. Now, why lake poets are important? So, lake poets are important because they started the Romantic movement with Lyrical Ballad 1798, which is one of the most important literary group. Romanticism starts here. They rejected neoclassical artificiality. They established nature as moral teacher and they influenced all later romantic poets, the first generation, second generation, and the upcoming. So Lake poets Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Southey romantic movements began with 1798 and preface to lyrical ballad, which is also known as a Romantic Manifesto. And the term Lake poets initially was a derogatory coined by Jaffrey. Okay, the Edinburgh Review. Remember. So I hope all the points is clear to you about the lake poets. Now, similarly, from the same literary movement, we have a Cockney school. Okay, so in Cockney school is the second generation romantic poets that is also known as term of abuse. So, what is Cockney school of poetry? Cockney School of Poetry, 1816 to 1825. So, a group of romantic writers attacked by conservative critics. The term here, Cockney School, was coined derisively by John Wilson Crocker in Blackwood's magazine. Remember the magazine name Blackwood Magazine in 1817 to 19. He simply meant to ridicule poets for their London background, lower middle class origins, and non classical style. And the favorite one was John Keats. So the Cockney school here refers to a group of poets and essayists writing in England in the second and third decades of the 19th century. And also you can say that it was a label used mockingly in Blackwood's magazine 1817. And the main target was Leigh Hunt. Though John Keats and William Hazlitt were also included, ironically here only Keats was actually a Cockney. With all the notable writers, here they were justifying that, ironically, in the sense they were mentioning John Keats, okay, but their target was Leigh Hunt. So here, if a Cockney, that slang for Londoner, and used is insultingly to suggest lack of refinement and classical educations. So these were their term, their way of talking or addressing somebody who belonged to lower middle class origins. Okay. So the Cockney School writers challenge elitism in literature, like you can see all the work of John Keats, Leigh Hunt, represent urban working class voices. They challenged elitist literary standards and championed urban life and middle class perspectives. They also fought against class prejudice in literature, and also they criticized for their humble origins. They contributed richly to romantic poetry. Okay. The notable members most remember John Keats, Leigh Hunt, and William Hazlitt. So Leigh Hunt was the leader of the Cockney School, poet, critic, editor, champion of liberal politics and poetic freedom. Major works you can remember: The Story of Rimini 1816, Foliage 1818, The Feast of the Poets 1814, and Essay in the Examiner from 1808. He promoted young romantic poets and he also advocated simplicity and everyday language. So, who? It was William Hazlitt, okay? Leigh Hunt. Also, important work we have, where you are going. John Keats, we have Leigh Hunt. Okay, Leigh Hunt. Now, John Keats, who was a major romantic second generation poet, attacked as a Cockney poet due to background and Hunt's influence. The major work most remember all the odes related to Keats, and that is poems 1817, Endymion 1818, Lamia 1820, odes 1819. That includes here Ode to a Nightingale, Ode on a Grecian Urn, Ode to Autumn, and the Eve of St. Agnes 1820. Okay. Another important figure we have William Hazlitt, who was an essayist critic, also associated intellectually rather than poetically. Major works: Character of Shakespeare's Plays 1817, The Spirit of the Age 1825, and Table Talk 1821 to 22. Very, very important. P.B. Shelley, who was not the major one but somehow associated, radical romantic poet admired by Leigh Hunt but not strictly a Cockney member. Queen Mab 1813, Alistair 1816, Prometheus Unbound 1820, Adonis 1821, and Odes to the West Wind 1819. Okay. Here is something about P.B. Shelley, how associated. So remember, while John Keats was the primary target of the Cockney label due to his London birth, Shelley was closely linked through his strong friendship and shared political and literary views with Hunt. So that is how indirectly associated. So here the critics often grouped them together, attacking their unconventional aesthetics and liberal politics. Okay. So why Cockney School is important? Because it shows critical hostility to romantic innovation. It highlights class bias in literary criticism. It associates with Keats' early reception, and it also emphasizes urban romanticism. Okay. Satanic, another important literary group we have, Satanic School of Poetry. It is also a second generation romantic poets term of abuse. So what is a Satanic school? A label of criticism, not a self-formed movement, coined by Robert Sade to attack Lord Byron and his followers. Okay, so this is something different. This term also associated with rebellion, pride, defiance, intellectual revolt, and anti-authoritarian heroes modeled on Milton's Saturn. So this is called coined by Robert Sade, remember? And who was the direct attack? Lord Byron, okay, and his followers. So Satanic here refers to admiration for Saturn in Paradise Lost as a heroic rebel. Also, they suggested moral transgression, atheism, political radicalism, and individualism. Okay, the major poets of this Satanic school you can remember Lord Byron, George Gordon Byron, the name central figure of the Satanic school, creator of the Byronic hero, proud, defiant, isolated, and passionate. Okay. Major works we have already not discussed. Lord Byron, English Birds and Scotch Reviewers, 1809. Child Harold's Pilgrimage, Cantos 1st to 2nd, 1812. Third, 1816, and 4, 1888, which is important. The Gyre, 1813, The Corsair, 1814, Lara, 1814, Manfred, 1817, Cain, 1821, and Don Juan, which is also very important, these two both. Okay. P.B. Shelley here sometimes included radical idealist, revolutionary thinker attacked as moralists, so all the work, The Revolt of Islam, remember, important and controversial. Prometheus Unbound, very important. Adonis 1821, which is also important, and a defense of poetry. In poetry class, discuss everything about this, which is very, very, very important. Okay, remember. Lee Hunt, indirect association with Satanic. Major work Story of Rimini, we have already discussed about them. So why Satanic School is important? Because it introduced the concept of Byronic hero, which is by Lord Byron. It shows conservative resistance to romantic radicalism. It highlights moral, political debates in romanticism, and it influenced later rebel heroes in literature. Okay, coined by Robert Sade, central poet Lord Byron, inspired by Milton's Saturn and term of critical abuse. So remember. Now another one we have pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. So pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood we have which is from the Victorian age, Victorian movement you can say, the literary group, art and poetry movement. What was the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood? So it is actually a group of young English artists and poets founded in 1848. Okay, 1848. And the aim of Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was to reject the artificiality of post-Renaissance, that is Raphael, art and poetry. They also advocated truth to nature, medievalism, intense detail, symbolism, and moral seriousness. The PDF have easy language which is very easily understandable to all of you. So Pre-Raphaelite influenced both visual art and Victorian poetry. Remember the age, okay? Pre-Raphaelite movement was a mid-19th century British artist and literary group that aimed to revive the style of art and before the High Renaissance, okay? They focused on detailed, sincere depictions of nature and embraced moral seriousness in their work. So why Pre-Raphaelite? So Pre-Raphaelite is a group admired art before Raphael. Believe that Renaissance classicism after Raphael led to artificiality and loss of sincerity in the work. So all the literary groups somehow initiated to reject or to adopt. They rejected classical poses and refined conventions, emphasized realism, nature, and medievalism. They also revived medieval art and literature values before Raphael's influence. They rejected the mechanistic and academic style that followed Raphael and the Renaissance. They wanted to revive medievalism, naturalism, and spiritual purity in art and literature, and also they blended poetry and visual art to express deep emotion and truth. Okay, remember the highlights. The notable members: Dante Gabriel Rossetti, William Homan Hunt, John Everett Millais, Christina Rossetti, associated member, and William Morris, later affiliated with the Pre-Raphaelite. So Dante Gabriel Rossetti we have was a poet, painter, translator, central literary figure of PRB, that is Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, blended medieval romance with sensual imagery. Okay, remember 1828 to 1882. Early the works here, the early Italian poets, translation version 1861 and revised 1874 as Dante and his circle. Poems 1870, ballads and sonnets 1881. Famous poem you can remember here: The Blessed Damsel, The House of Life. Okay. William Homan, who was mainly a painter and minor writer. So he was the founder member, emphasized symbolic realism and moral seriousness. So we cannot count him as a proper full-time writer. Major work here you can remember: Pre-Raphaelitism and Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood 1905. John Everett Millais was also a painter and literary relevance. Founding member known for early symbolic works. Okay. Associated poets we have Christina Rossetti, major Victorian women poet, religious, symbolic, lyrical sister of D.G. Rossetti. Goblin Market and Other Poems 1862, The Prince Progress 1866, A Pageant and Other Poems 1881, and Mona in Innominata 1881. Okay. William Morris we have, who was a poet, designer, socialist thinker, revived medieval romance. Major works you can remember: The Defense of Guinevere 1858, The Earthly Paradise 1868, and News from Nowhere 1898. Okay. Major works by Algernon Charles Swinburne, later association, he was poet of musicality and rebellion, extended Pre-Raphaelite sensuousness. Major works: poems and ballads, Atlanta and Caledon, Songs Before Sunrise. Okay. Remember, Pre-Raphaelites founded in 1848, leader T.G. Rossetti, Truth to Nature, their motto was, and they influenced Oscar Wilde and aestheticism. Okay. Another very important literary group we have Bloomsbury Group, which is very important and favorite you can say by net. So Bloomsbury Group 1904 to 1939. Early 20th century modernist intellectual circle, the writers belong to Bloomsbury Group. So Bloomsbury Group was actually an informal group of English writers, critics, artists, and thinkers who met in the Bloomsbury area of London. Okay, I told you initially that what are the difference between literary groups and literary movements. Okay, It is a broader term, it is a smaller term. There is a difference. In group, the writer keep meeting with each other. They have a specific place or the ideas they share and they target. And the moment that all these literary groups, you can say, emerge. These writers do not meet, they do not know each other. Still, their perception and the work that is prevailing in the specific time they share. They were active mainly before and between the world wars. Okay. Yeah, the date is clear here. So they're known for modernism, liberal humanism, aestheticism, pacifism, feminism, and experimental art. They also rejected Victorian moral rigidity, valued individual freedom, truth, and personal relationships. Okay. So the Bloomsbury Group was an influential circle of writers, artists, and thinkers of early 20th century Britain centered in London's Bloomsbury district, known for their intellectual ideals and bohemian lifestyle. Okay, bohemian lifestyle. They made significant contributions to art, literature, and philosophy. They named after Bloomsbury Group, actually named after Bloomsbury district, which is in London. They here the members' meetings began around 1905 to 6 in the homes of Vanessa Bell, remember, and Virginia Woolf. Their aim was to advance modernist thought, feminism, art, and literature. They focused on modernist literature, aesthetics, feminism, and progressive thought. They believed in the importance of personal relationship and artistic freedom, and also their discussion and works redefined English intellectual and cultural life. Notable members Virginia Woolf, E.M. Foster, Lytton Strachey, and John Maynard Keynes. Okay. PYQs they gave that which one of the writers do not belong to the Bloomsbury group. Here another one we have Leonard Woolf and Vanessa Bell. Okay. Virginia Woolf's we have already discussed in British literature. So central literary figure, modernist novelist and essayist and pioneer of stream of consciousness. Pioneer we can't say, but who has used extensively. Mrs. Dalloway, The Lighthouse, at least let's get revise all the works with year. Cross check the year, everybody. Mrs. Dalloway 25, To the Lighthouse 27, Orlando 28, Waves 31, Jacob's Room 22, Room of Ones on 29 and 38. The three Guinness. Okay. E.M. Forster was a novelist and critic, explored human relationship, class conflict, and liberal humanism. Where major works remember Where Angels Fear to Tread 1905, A Room with a View 1908, Howard's End 1910, A Passage to India 1924, which is very, very, very important. Remember the character Godbull, we have Henry Fielding, we have and Aziz. Backdrop, the temple, the cave, the mosque, you cannot forget about the work, must prepare, and aspects of the novel 1927. Okay. Lytton Strachey we have was a biographer and critic known for ironic anti-Victorian biography. Major works Eminent Victorians 1918, Queen Victoria 1921, and Elizabeth and Essex 1928. I just put all the works here for your revision purpose, everybody, but you have to focus on the members of literary groups, why it is coined, when it was coined, and the highlights of coining this literary group, by whom, in which magazine. So focus on that, okay? This thing I have put up here for the revision. Another John Maynard Keynes we have who was an economist, influential public intellectual, brought economic thought into cultural debate. Major works The Economic Consequences of the Peace 1919, A Treatise on Money 1930, and The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money 1936. Leonard Woolf we have was a political theorist, novelist, publisher, co-founder of Hogarth Press. Okay. Major works: The Village in the Jungle 1913, International Government 1916, Empire and Commerce in Africa 1920, and Beginning Again Autobiography, which is 1964. Clive Belby was an art critic, theorist of modern art aesthetics. Major works: Remember Art 1940, which is a theory of significant form, and Civilization 1928. Roger Fry, the minor here included, art critic, painter, introduced postmodern impressionism to England. Vision and Design and Transformations are the important works. Vanessa Bell, who was a painter, visual representative of Bloomsbury aesthetics, okay, who was not an author but culturally and associated with the group. So Bloomsbury Group actively during 20th century, central figure Virginia Woolf, Press, Hogarth Press 1917, and the key idea art plus life plus intellectuality. They talked about majorly. Now another one we have, I think the class is going to be longer, so let's end here everybody. The remaining 10 or 13 still we are leaving, and plus there are important PYQs that you must not forget. So we will meet in the next class. Till then, stay tuned, subscribe the channel, and for the PDF you can simply, now I won't ask you to join above, because once you are getting the PDF, the members are leaving the channel, so that's not good. I'm really hurt. That means you are just here for the PDF everyone. It's okay. Then I'll have to figure out something how I can share the PDF. Okay. Take care of yourself and let's meet in the next class.